This is TrackDown on ShakeDown, back at a real racetrack once again. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, we all know it as Mosport. And this TrackDown is with Doug Fehan, our good friend over at Corvette Racing. The cards on the table, we've got a professional relationship from way back, working on programs together, but that never stops Doug from telling the truth. So Doug, here we are with TrackDown. As I mentioned in my intro, we've got a professional history together.
Yes, we do.
It went okay. And coming from corporate, I respect some of the things that are realities. So I'm not going to ask you about C7R, although I'm chomping at the bit. It'll come up at the appropriate time when everyone's comfortable, but know that that car is going to actually exist and actually race friggin' fast. So let's talk about the next part.
Okay.
USCR is coming. In your sense, what's the biggest challenge that you want to have happen correctly for USCR to be, frankly, better than where we are?
Well, I'm going to take a little different perspective on this than you might expect.
Okay.
To me, there's a three-legged stool from which everything is stacked upon. The first that is safety. And although it doesn't fit the NASCAR template, having our own self-contained dedicated safety crew is of paramount importance. To me, that should just be plug and play. We have a great program that runs here in ALMS, and it should follow over, my opinion.
Now you're kind of pulling it out of me to ask you. I'm assuming there are discussions about that happening?
I believe there are.
Okay.
In my discussions with the powers to be, they have indicated that that is certainly something that they're considering. And as you know, Leo, we've known each other long enough. Yeah. Safety in this car exceeds any other vehicle on that racetrack, and it's of paramount importance to me. So that's the first leg of the stool, all right?
Okay.
The second leg of the stool that I feel is a requirement is the technical inspection. I mean, gloves off, I've not been overly impressed with what Grand Am has presented from a technical inspection standpoint.
And there is a separation, and now you've got two guys like Scott Elkins and Richard Buck trying to bring it together.
That's correct. And this ought to be plug and play again with the ALMS. It's a streamlined program, the competitors respect it, it's efficient, and it gets the job done. There's no reason really to change it, and it certainly would be an upgrade from what I've seen at Grand Am. And by the way, they recognize that there's always room for improvement, and that's the important thing. You have to recognize that you can improve, and then the willingness to improve. The third leg of that stool is the registration process. Registration, for anyone who may have gone through Grand Am, know that sometimes it can be challenging, as opposed to the ALMS, which provides a far more welcoming atmosphere. And if you're bringing a potential sponsor or an executive from your company and you start swimming uphill in a big hurry, that's the first eyes on that those people have for your organization. So registration process needs to be improved. We have a great program here, and hopefully that will be plug and play. Those three things to me are the fundamentals, which is an odd position to take. Others are going to talk about other things. Those are the three things I find to be the most important.
No, but you make an exceptionally valid point. It goes way beyond cool drivers and cool cars. Those basics have to be in place to be successful. And your registration, I do a little bit of a marketing thing too, so I have that sense of affinity. It's almost like what the airlines are doing, screwing up their customers and still expecting them to come back. So
we're not happy till you're not happy. It's not a good motto to have.
I hear you. Going to go to the racing part of this. Elkins and Buck are trying to performance balance everything. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get into the GTLM thing, but it seems to be emanating on a sense of speed differential between the classes.
Yes.
This is going to sound like a stupid question, but hopefully you'll make it make sense. How much speed differential do we need for this to work on a racetrack?
Well, first of all, it varies from racetrack to racetrack. So there isn't a common formula. There isn't a panacea that's going to solve all the issues. Generally speaking, if you can get a 3, 4, 5 second a lap differential on most racetracks, that'll pretty much do the job. That's going to be a challenge, and it's going to be a process. No one can be expected to get that right out of the chute.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to take some time to develop, and I have confidence in those guys. We have great data that's available to us now. I have all the confidence in the world that they're going to be able to come up with a formula that will eventually work. believe me, if there's a soft spot, it will show itself clearly and rapidly, and then we'll be able to respond in a like form.
So when I'm watching the cars, what I think I see is a car like the C6R is really good in the brake zone, really good in the corner. The differential's got to come somewhere else. And I'm assuming the C7R is going to be a step forward on some of those metrics. So is it really all about horsepower and VMAX?
Well, I think there's a couple of things you have to look at. The VMAX may be the single most important because it is, I mean, that's a clear indication of the power that you're running, okay? However, you have to not only look at VMAX, you have to look at how quickly you achieve VMAX, all right? Two cars can have identical top speed at Le Mans, but if one gets there 1,000 yards ahead of the next guy, you know, come on. I mean, it's driving by and then there. So you have to look at the acceleration rates. Then you look at braking and cornering, and then, you know, you have to look at fuel mileage. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider. Once again, it's a process. Yep. You're not going to get it right totally, or do as good a job as you can do right out of the chute. You got to work at it.
Now I'm gonna step off from the process part, and I'm gonna prove I actually am an absolute pussy with you, because I'm not gonna ask you details about Le Mans, but I'm gonna ask you this question about Le Mans. What's the difference between racing the American series and then going over there and racing the European style or European teams?
The simple answer to that is that the performance balancing here in the US is different than it is at Le Mans, and they've done a more complete job here. I think they recognized at Le Mans that this year that they missed pretty badly on a number of counts. And unfortunately, we happen to be the victim of that miss. I think that they're going to work very, very hard to gather that back up, and I think next year we'll see a little different story, and I think they'll look very closely at the data that ALMS has gathered here, and, you know, we'll move forward. Again, a process.
And in both of those situations, what we were talking about the three stools for the USCR and this FIA or ACO Le Mans thing, take me through a little bit of the understanding. They don't just do their work in a bubble. They're talking with the manufacturers. They're talking with representatives like you.
Right.
So is it a negotiation or is it a data collect?
It's a data collect.
Okay.
You know, they did a very good job at Le Mans this year. We met with them twice before the race began, and we were able to meet with them as a group, and we were able to meet with them twice individually. So you got to be very frank. You got to, you know, say your piece. Yep. And then they went back and internally made decisions that they were going to make. So it's a good process.
I'm going to change the subject and see if I can answer this Corvette question. It's a conceptual question. There's been a lot of shows on Drive talking about the hypercars and all the technologies being pushed into things like a Porsche 918. The new Corvette C7 is coming out, road car. Essence of driving, and think about the Corvette world. Technology, enhancing the driving, or just the raw basics of the visceral experience. How does that fit Corvette world?
Well, you know, our consumer, as with any consumer today, in any product for that matter, and you can relate to this as well as all the viewers, you know, with the availability of the internet, you can become an expert on whatever you're buying in a relatively short period of time. And in some cases, no more than the person who is in fact selling that product to you. That's a good thing. We stay in constant touch with our customer, more so than anybody else. When you look at other manufacturers and they talk about knowing their customer, you live in the marketing world. You know, it's, you know, he's between 45 and 52 years old, annual income of $102,000. He's got 2 kids, both in college, married with a pet. That's knowing your customer, right? At Corvette, it moves well beyond that. We know the people individually. We know it's Charlene and Jim. We know their son Trey. We know he's graduating this year from USC. And we know their dog Rover because we've signed his little vest. That's knowing your customer. So we have the ability, and Harlan Charles does a great job along with Tad Jechter, in relating what they take and learn from our customer, from our customer lips, and putting it into the vehicle. There's nothing in the new car that the customer hasn't asked for. So we don't guess at what they might want. We know what they want. And that's what makes Corvette unique in all the automotive world.
And when they, Chevy and GM, prop you up in front of those crowds at the corral, you get that same feedback. So I don't want to turn it into an infomercial, but it connects the dots between the racing and
no
the
question.
road car.
No question. When you can relate to your customer on truly a first-hand basis, believe me, you have that customer captured, and you have that customer far more than just Corvette. You have that customer for Sonic or Silverado or Cadillac ATS or CTS. They buy more than just a Corvette. They have more than one car.
Now, shockingly, we've done a very serious show here, even with you and me.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So let me end with one question, because I keep remembering how you keep bringing new drivers into the Corvette Racing Program.
Yes.
At a macro level, how do you evaluate drivers? What criteria do you look for that makes a great racer?
Okay. The first thing, foremost, the foundation from which we build is the ability to bring the car up to speed and not make mistakes behind the wheel. You can't go brain dead in a racing situation. That's the platform. So first you have to qualify there. There's nobody here that can't go fast enough, all right? Then you need someone who has a personality that allows him to check his ego at the door, to understand that he is no different or no more highly valued on this team than the guys who drive the truck or the guys who are working on the car. He has to understand that he is part of this family. He lives here all the time, and you only have to look around. I can find these guys in 30 seconds. They're not off romancing something down the block. They are here, they live here. They have to be willing to subscribe to that. And probably the second most important thing is the ability to relate to our customer and to appreciate what that customer means and what that customer brings to the party. Because without our customer, he's not working. He needs to know that. And I think when you look across the board and you watch our guys interact, number one, they're trainable, and number two, they've been well trained.
So from a pure racing standpoint, you collect a lot of data. Pratt & Miller's built that
Right.
way. But you still seek a lot from them. Is there a process, a regiment that you put into the drivers?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yes. No, they learn. And if you notice, we haven't changed drivers as frequently as other teams.
That's true.
All right, we move very slowly and very cautiously. Number one, it gives us an opportunity to totally evaluate the young guys coming up. All right, and we see them in a bunch of different environments, sometimes outside the GM family, and for the most part inside the GM family now that we've expanded our racing programs. All right, and then we have the ability to sit them down and physically, mentally approach them and teach them how you interact. And I can tell you, it's not near as difficult as you might think. So it's passed down from driver. It starts at Oliver and then moves to Jan and then Antonio and then Tommy. You know, as the young guys come up, whether it's a Jordan or Richard, you know, as they see that interaction, they learn by watching what they're expected to do and how they do it.
And I've learned by watching, so here's our last question. This track seems to be good for this car and vice versa. So expectations this weekend?
We never bring all this equipment and all this manpower to a race that we don't think we can win, okay? It's 25% great car, it's 25% great team, and it's 50% good fortune. If we get a little bit of that good fortune rolling our way, we should end up with a good result here.
Go get them. Thanks.
Thank you, bud.